Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Walters, I just like to ask, I have three questions I'm going to try to get around in this short period of time. In the book, and we've all been talking about this now ever since 2018 when this came out, the recommendation said it's going to take 3 to 5% real annual defense spending growth to implement the NDS, and I really believe that is true. Now, the current budget doesn't even keep up with inflation. Now, this is kind of an if question, General Walters. If the defense budget shrinks and the European Deterrence Initiative gets cut, what would be the impact to your efforts in Europe, just off the top, if that happens?
Senator, it would slow down our campaign momentum that we've been able to sustain for the last 4 years in improving our indications and warnings, our command and control, and our readiness.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Now, General Walters, I also mentioned, you and I talked about this in my office. It's unfortunate, but a lot of people in this administration are talking about the F-35, and some don't think it's worth the resources that it's detracting from other areas. And I'm so thankful that I have the memory of what happened back. I actually started out when I was in the House of Representatives on the House Armed Services Committee on the F-22. The F-22 and the F-35 are the only two vehicles out there in the fifth generation. So in the F-22 was the first one. We started out with the goal was 700 copies were going to come, and they started whittling down. This happened, it started actually when I was still in the House side, and it went down from 700 to incrementally reduced to, ultimately it got down to, 187 F-22s. And we knew that was a mistake at that time. And the reason I bring that up is that right now we have Russia and China pursuing their own fifth generation programs like the J-20 and the Su-57. How concerned are you about our great power competitors' fifth generation capabilities, and how important is the F-35 to deter these threats in Europe?
Senator, the F-35 is very important. As I mentioned in my opening comments, our disposition from a military perspective is strong yet challenged, and part of that challenge is the evolution of the Su-37 fifth generation aircraft on behalf of the Russians. And we in the U.S. need F-35s in Europe, which will begin to show up in the fall of 21 to ensure that we have the competitive advantage necessary to protect our sovereign territory.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's good. And during the last year's posture hearing, General Lyons testified that the Air Force's divestment of the KC-135 and the KC-10 would put TRANSCOM below its minimum requirements, and that's in light of the fact that the KC-46 didn't come out with the way we wanted it to, and yet it took action from the NDAA from 2021 to reverse the number of those divestments to ensure that TRANSCOM has the necessary refueling capacity to meet the requirements. Now, I would have to say, and you may want to elaborate on this, maybe for the record, but I look at this and say, what's wrong with our requirements process when Congress has to step in to ensure that you have enough tanker aircraft to stay the mission ready? I mean, your observation was right, but it took us action to make sure that happened in our fiscal year 21 NDAA. Anything come to your mind as in terms of the why it's necessary for us to do this and why this couldn't have been done before that our action was necessary?
Well, Senator, first I want to thank you for your support on the issue of aerial refuel, which is such a critical force element and basically the lifeblood for the joint force in terms of our weapon systems. Yeah. Last year, you asked the question, what was the implications operationally to the delay of the Boeing KC-46 delivery? And based on the retirement profile, there were implications in the active duty component to respond to day-to-day crisis. I'm happy and pleased to report to you this year that we're in a much better position. We have a very good alignment between the department, between Air Force and TRANSCOM. Air Force has stepped forward with interim capability with the KC-46. We've still got a long way to go, but I am very, very comfortable with where we are with the Air Force, and the Air Force has really stepped into
So
this.
you think that that has been corrected?
I do, sir. It has been.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Senator.